Hey, in this video we're going to go over the April 2023 Math SAT for the calculator section. If you want to look at the non-calculator section, that was my previous video, so I'm going to link it in the description. But yeah, let's start. So question number 1, we have a graph here, and it says the lines shown model the population of Iowa and Louisiana from 1900 to 2020. In what year does the graph indicate that Iowa and Louisiana had the same population? So, for something to have the same population, we have two lines here I'm going to do them in red. We have this line and this line. If we want to find out when they had the same population, it's going to be at the point of where they meet or when they cross, because at this point, they have the exact same y value. So, let's erase these lines, but now let's follow and trace where this point of where they meet is at. So this would be at 940, so that's literally the answer, 940, because at this point, they both had a population of 2.5 million people, and that's it. Yeah, so 1940 is the answer. Question number 2, a researcher measured the height of a poodle's shoulders from the ground in centimeters as it aged over 10 months, so from 1 through 10. And then the scatter plot shows this relationship, and a line of best fit for the data is also shown. So we got a few points. I'm going to do them in red. So this. But yeah, these points are where they were measured. Then the line of best fit is kind of like the average. And then the actual question says, what is the height of the poodle's shoulders in centimeters predicted by the line of best fit when the poodle is 5 months old? So first, when does 5 months old happen? It happens here. So if we trace it up, it would be somewhere over here. And if you trace it to the right, it would be somewhere between 19 and 20. So it would be 19 point something. So which of these values is between 19 and 20? It has to be B. So very simple and super easy. Question number 3. Each face of a fair number cube is labeled with numbers from 1 through 6. So basically just a dice. And then with a different number appearing on each face. Yeah, just a dice. If the number cube is rolled one time, so rolled once, what is the probability that number 2 will be shown on the top face? This is pretty simple, but if you have 6 faces in total, and we are looking for one specific number, which is a 2, there is a 1 out of 6 chances that we land on that number. So because 2 is one possibility out of 6 possibilities. So the answer is A. Once again, super simple, this is very basic probability. Question number 4, a car's fuel efficiency is 30 miles per gallon of gasoline. During a trip, the car uses 5 gallons of gasoline. And then based on the car's fuel efficiency, how many miles did the car travel during the trip? So this must be easy again, but it's a common ratio. So if we have 30 miles for 1 gallon, because it's 30 miles per gallon, that's 1. And then this must be equal to 5 gallons on the bottom. And we're trying to find out what this would be, so X on top, because once again, it's a common ratio. These should be equal fractions because they're equivalent. It's a ratio, so basically multiply this fraction by some number, which is 5, because if you multiply 1 by 5, you get 5. So what is 30 times 5? 30 times 5 is 150. So X is equal to 150. That means for 5 gallons of gasoline, the car traveled 150 miles. So the answer is D. Pretty simple. Question number 5, a line in the XY plane. So for XY plane, this is to confuse you a bit, but the XY plane just means a normal graph that you've seen before. But yeah, so a line on a graph passes through the point 0, 5. So this is very important, and has a slope of 7. What is the equation of this line? We know that for any linear line, because this is a line, so for any line, it would have the equation y is equal to mx plus b. This is something you have to memorize, but m is the slope, and b is the y-intercept. So in this case, we know the slope, it's 7, that was given to us. So already, before we even start, we can cross these two out because they had a slope of 5. These are wrong. So that's the first step. We know that m is equal to 7. Second step, we have this point over here. And coincidentally, which is not a coincidence because they made the question like this on purpose, but this is the y-intercept. Because if you think of it as a graph, the y-intercept happens on the y-axis. So, and that happens when the x value is equal to, so I'm going to draw this here. So this happens when the x value is equal to 0. And that's where the y-intercept happens. That's why we're going to have 0, comma something. And that something is the y-intercept. So the y-intercept b is equal to 5. That means, is it going to be negative 5 or positive 5? The answer must be D because it's positive and not negative. So the answer is D. Pretty simple. Just use the information that you got in the question. Very, very simple. Part C, or question C, what point xy is a solution to the given system of inequalities in the xy plane? So in other words, which of these points satisfies both inequalities that we have here? It has to be both. You cannot satisfy one but not the other. Okay, so the first one says that y has to be less than x. So basically, this value has to be less than this value. Is 1 less than 0? No. So we already know A is going to be wrong. Is 2 less than 3? Yes. But we're going to leave it for now because it passes the first one. So I'm going to say 1, check, because it passes the first inequality, but we don't know about the second one yet. And then third one is 7 less than 6. No, so we can cross this out. And then for the fourth one is 8 less than 9. Yes, so it passes the first check again. Okay, now let's do the second check. Is x greater than 7? So over here, the x value is 3. So for the second check, it fails because we don't want that. And over here, the x value is greater than 7 because 9 is bigger than 7. So it passes the second check. So D is the right answer. So very, very simple. You just check each value for each point. Question number 7. In the given scatter plot, a line of best fit for the data is shown. So it's same thing again. At x is equal to 20, so over here, approximately how much greater is the actual y value than the y value predicted by the line of best fit? So the actual y value is a line here, or I mean the point. This is the actual y value. I'm going to write actual. And then the predicted by the line of best fit is obviously on the line of best fit, but it would be here. So what is the difference between these two? The actual value, let's trace it. It would have happened between 350 and 300. So that's approximately 325. Once again, I'm just taking a number in the middle. It's an approximate prediction, so it doesn't have to be exact. And that's why you might notice that all these answers are very far apart, because the prediction can vary by tiny bits, but in general, it should be accurate. So it's a prediction, but yeah. So right now, the actual value is at 325. And if you trace the predicted value by the line of best fit, kind of this way, it would be at 250. So what is 325 minus 250? That's approximately 75. So C is the right answer. But yeah, if you got 70 from subtraction, you can still positively say it's going to be 75 because every other answer is very wrong. Because the way I did the actual prediction, like I traced on the green line here, this was kind of like a guess. I could have said 320 instead of 325, and that would have changed my answer. But in general, if you do something that is kind of accurate, you should get the right answer. Okay. Question number 8. The average price of regular gasoline per gallon in the United States in 2001 was $1.42. And each year, from 2001 to 2008, the average price increased by approximately 12% of the previous year's average price. Which equation best models the situation where y is the average price, so y is the average price, in dollars, of regular gasoline per gallon, and x is the number of years since 2001. Okay, so we start off with $1.42 per gallon. That was in 2001. After that, we have a 12% increase every year after that, so we're going to multiply by 1.12 because 12% is 0.12, but since it's an increase, we would add to 1. So we're going to multiply each value by 1.12 to get a new number, which is going to be the next year's number. So this was 2001. This could be 2002. Okay, but all we care about for now is the equation. So we don't actually have to find the value. We're just looking at the process of finding it. So after that, if you want to find 2003, you would multiply by 1.12 again because it increased by 12% again from the previous year. And you keep multiplying by 1.12. So first, what we did was we multiplied 1.42 by 1.12 times 1.12 times how many ever times you want to do it to get to the year that you're looking for. So which of these equations looks like what we got? First, 1.12 to the power of x, that's half the answer because you would have these parts, but you wouldn't have 1.42. So this is wrong. And then B, 1.42 to the power of x, this has to be wrong because we don't see any trace of 1.12, so it's missing that. It's not even half the answer because it's just wrong. So B is wrong. For C, we have 1.12 on the outside, but then we're multiplying 1.42 multiple times. Is this right? No, because what we know is that we should multiply 1.42 once, and then the thing that's being repeated is 1.12. So this has to be wrong. That means we are left with the D, but just to make sure, let's check it. So we have 1.42 once, which is correct, and then we have 1.12 being multiplied how many ever times you want to reach the year that you want. So D has to be the right answer. Once again, process of elimination. Question 9. 5x plus 3y is equal to 7, and 2x plus y is 2. The solution to the given system of equations is x comma y. What is the value of 7x plus 4y? Okay, so this requires experience of you doing these type of questions before, but the only way you can see this is if you have done something like it before. From what I know, because I have done something like it before, is that if you add both equations, 5x plus 2x gives you 7x, 3y plus y gives you 4y. So all you have to do is add both equations up. So you kind of add it like you are used to. So this would be equal to 7, and then 2x plus y is equal to 2, and then add both equations. You would end up with 7 plus 2 is 9. 3y plus y is 4y. So I'm going to write that here. So 4y. And then 5x plus 2x is 7x. So 7x. And then put the signs in. So what is the value of 7x plus 4y? It's over here. 7x plus 4y is equal to 9. So that's the answer. Okay. But once again, I noticed this because I've done it before. I've done something like it before. But something else you might notice, because it's kind of common, you might have to subtract both equations. In this case, we added, but in some other common type of question, it could also be subtraction. So those are the two things you can watch out for because they're very, very common in SATs as well. Question number 10. In a certain election, the ratio of electoral votes received in Maine by candidate X to those received by candidate Y was 3-1. So this is a ratio. And then the state of Maine had 4 electoral votes in total, I guess. And then how many electoral votes did candidate Y receive in Maine? So if the ratio is 3-1, that means you could add these up. 3 plus 1 equals 4. And that means for every 4 units that you have, for every 4 votes that you have, 3 of them are going to go to candidate X, and 1 of them is going to go to candidate Y. So this is X, and this is Y. And then it asks you, if you do have 4 votes, how many did candidate Y receive? The answer is very simple. It would just be 1. So this is very simple because they made it very simple on purpose to kind of confuse you. Let's say in some other question, instead of 4, this was 8. So I'm going to write this here, but let's say we had 8 total votes instead of 4. Then your answer would be very simple, but 3 plus 1 is equal to 4 again. So for every 4 votes, you would have 2 for Y and 3 for X. That means if you have 8 votes, you would multiply everything by 2. So instead of 3 plus 1, you would have 6 plus 2, because 4 times 2 is 8. That means you have to multiply 1 times 2 to get 2, and 3 times 2 to get 6. And then you'd once again look at the X and Y's. So this is for X and this is for Y. That means if you wanted to find the number of candidates who went for Y, the answer would be 2. Okay, but yeah, this is super simple because they asked us for 4, which is already the base number. So don't get confused by how easy it actually is. Question number 11. The graph shown models the number of area codes assigned to phone numbers in Illinois from 1947 through 2009, where X represents the number of years after 1947. Which equation represents this relationship? Okay, so first, this is an exponential graph, so it's not linear. We cannot follow y is equal to mx plus b. This would be wrong because y is equal to mx plus b is only for linear graphs. So this is wrong to use. After that, okay, we have to figure out some other way of finding the answer for this. A good trick is to plug in when x is equal to 0. This is nice because, first of all, it's easy to calculate because you're plugging in a 0. It's always going to be easy to calculate. And you can also easily check where the point is. We know that if you plug x is equal to 0, you should get a y value that is about 3.25. Anywhere between 3 and 4. So that should be true. Okay, so let's try these out first. First of all, let's try A. If you plug in x is equal to 0, you would have 1.02 times 3 to the power of 0.26 to the power of negative 0, which is the same as to the power of 0. This would be 1.02 times 1, because anything to the power of 0 is 1. And this would be 1.02. Is 1.02 between 3 and 4? No. So this has to be wrong because we did not get a y value that we want. So A is wrong. Let's do the exact same thing for B, C, and D. So let's do the same thing for this one. It will be 3.26 times 1.02 to the power of 0. And then this will be equal to 3.26 times 1, which is 3.26. Is 3.26 between 3 and 4? Yes. So this has a possibility of being the right answer. But we're going to stop for now. But yeah, so this has a possibility, but we're not going to cross it out yet. Question or part C. Let's do the exact same thing. So it would be 1.02 times 3.26 to the power of 0. Once again, this would be 1.02 times 1, which is 1.02. Is 1.02 between 3 and 4? No. So this is wrong. And then let's do the exact same thing for part D. So 3.26 times 1.02 to the power of 0 is the exact same as 3.26 times 1, which is 3.26. Is 3.26 between 3 and 4? Yes. So once again, this has a possibility of being correct. Okay. After that, so we have two choices left, because after looking at one point, the most important point on most graphs, we were able to cross out A and C. So now we are looking at B and D. Now, the only difference between B and D is the negative x and positive x. We know that if you have a negative x as an exponent, the graph is going to look something like this. It's going to start going downwards. It's going to be a decreasing function. But since we have an increasing function, it has to be a D because the x on top is positive. So D must be a direct answer. But to get the answer that we just did here, you have to have some knowledge of exponential graphs in general. You cannot do this blindly, or it would take you a lot of time to plug in a few more points here. Like I'm going to do this in green. But yeah, let's say I did not know this. I would have to plug in a few more points and see if they also match up like we did for this point at the beginning. So kind of your choice, but I would look over exponential graphs before doing an SAT. Question number 12. The line graph shows the number of near-Earth asteroids discovered by the Spacewatch survey from 2003 to 2010. So this is the graph that they are talking about over here. And now the actual question says, during which period was the increase in the number of near-Earth asteroids discovered the greatest? So we're looking for when the increase was the greatest. And by the word increase, we already know this is going to be the slope. So we're going to look at when is the slope the greatest, and since it's an increase, it has to be pointing up. If the line is pointing down, like these areas, the answer is not what we're looking for, because that's a decrease. So if we're looking for the greatest increase. So we have a few lines here. We have this line, we have this line here, which kind of looks like it, but it's not the same. And then this line over here, and then we also have this line as well. So which of these four lines, 1, 2, 3, and 4, which of these four lines has the greatest increase, or in other words, has the greatest slope? Let's do rise over run, but rise over run kind of also involves a bit of guessing and a bit of intuition, but we're looking at a 1 block wide run, because rise over run is a fraction, so the denominator would always be 1 block to the right, so this would be over 1, I guess, and then the rise is what we're looking for the most. So in which of these did the graph go up the most in the least amount of time? It has to be number 4. Over here it only went up by like about 2 blocks, and then I'm going to do it in pink, but then this was about 1 block, and then finally this was about 2 blocks again, but then for number 4 this was about like 4 blocks, so 4 has to be the greatest because it has the most rise involved, because rise over run is what we're looking for. So once again, if you have the most rise, it is the answer that we're looking for. And when did this happen? It happened between 2007 and 2008. So the answer must be D. So that's kind of it. There's nothing really else to it. Question number 13. There are infinitely many solutions to which of the following equations? So yeah, we have 2 equations here. One of them, I guess, has an infinitely long number of solutions, or it could be both, or it could be neither. Okay, so let's kind of look at the options. For the first one, let's expand. So 4 times x plus 1 would be 4x plus 4, and then add the plus 2, so plus 2 is equal to 4x plus 6. This would be 4x plus 6 is equal to 4x plus 6. And let's kind of start getting rid of some values. So let's subtract 4x from both sides, so minus 4x minus 4x. You would end up with 6 is equal to 6. Now you have to ask yourself, is 6 equal to 6? That is valid, that's correct. And that means since there is no x in this equation, our equation does not depend on x, that means any value of x would work. Because once again, if you don't have an x in there, it really doesn't matter what you plug in for x, because again, that cancels somehow. Since we get 6 is equal to 6, that means the first equation is correct and it has an infinitely long number of solutions. For equation 2, let's do the exact same thing. Let's expand first. So we would have 4x plus 4, and then add the plus 1, so plus 1 is equal to 4x plus 7. After this, let's actually kind of compress some of these. So we would get 4x plus 5 is equal to 4x plus 7. After that, let's get rid of the x's once again. So subtract x from both of these. You would end up with 5 is equal to 7. Is 5 equal to 7? No, this is wrong, logically and mathematically. So since this is wrong, that means equation 2 does not have any possible answers, because no matter what you plug in for x, you're always going to get a wrong solution. That means this is wrong, so the answer has to be A, because it's only 1. Question number 14. A sample of 50 employees from the finance department at company XYZ was selected at random. So this is kind of garbage. We don't really care about this too much, but I'm just going to leave it for now, I guess. But what's important to know is that there are 50 employees for now. And then the 50 employees completed a survey about a website's ease of use, and 72% of them thought the website was easy to use. Okay, so 72% were kind of agreeing that the website is easy to use, and then I guess the 28% kind of said no, this is not easy to use. Which of the following is the largest population to which the results of the survey can be generalized? Okay, so first, it's asking us two questions at the same time. It's asking us which of the following populations in general can the survey be generalized to, and then which one of them is the largest. Okay, so two parts of this question. So let's do part number 1 and part number 2. Let's do number 1 first. So which of these can the survey apply to? Can it apply to all the employees in the finance department in the United States? No, because this only happened in company XYZ, so the survey might be tailored to employees of company XYZ. That means others in the United States might not be able or might not agree with the survey. That means this is wrong. We cannot agree to this because it's in the United States, not in the company. Part B, all the employees in company XYZ. This is also wrong because the employees were all from the finance department. So if you get someone from like the custodial department where they clean, they probably would not have the same amount of knowledge. That means B is also wrong because they just wouldn't know as much and their expertise would be in some other department. So yeah, B is wrong. For C, all employees in the finance department in company XYZ. Yes, this is correct. We're not going to circle it for now, but this is correct since it applies to all the employees in the finance department in company XYZ. So two things that are correct. And then part D, does it apply to all the employees in the sample? Obviously, because they were the ones who did the sample, so it applies to both. Okay, now that's kind of part 1. Part 2, which of these is the largest population? Is it C or is it D? Obviously, let's kind of draw a Venn diagram here. Let's have a box. The sample is going to be part of the box. It's going to be here. This is S, which is a sample. Everyone else from here are the people who are in the finance team of the company, but who are not surveyed. But if it applies to both, which one is bigger? It has to be C, because this is just more people who aren't surveyed, but it also applies to them because they fall in the same category. So it has to be C because they're the bigger population of people. Part 15 or question 15, if R is equal to 10 over 3S, and then the given equation shows a proportional relationship between the variables R and S, which expression is equivalent to 6R? Okay, so 6R means that you multiplied R by 6. That means let's multiply R by 6. So 6R is going to be equal to 10 over 3S all multiplied by 6. So 10 over 3S multiplied by 6 is going to be the exact same as 60 over 3S, which is the exact same as 20S. Once again, you can put this on calculator if you have trouble doing it, but the answer is A. Very, very simple. Question number 16, dataset P we have here, so a couple of numbers in order, and then it says that dataset P contains the lengths in inches of 11 objects. and then the length of 12 inches is removed. So I guess this is removed from data set P to create data set N. So data set N, I'm going to write up here, would be everything other than 12. So it will be everything other than 12. Okay, and then after that it says which contains blah blah blah. So yeah, now it's going to be 10 objects instead of 11 because we removed one of them. And then which statement best compares the mean Q and the median R of dataset P with the median S and the median T of dataset N. So actually, instead of saying this, let's actually write down what numbers we have left. So we would have 18, 19, 19, 19, and we have 5 19, so 2 more, 19, 19, then 21, 21, 22, 22. But yeah, okay, so we have to compare both medians and both means. You can do this on a calculator for the mean, but I already know that if you remove the lowest number out of the set, obviously the mean is going to be pushed to the right because you took away what's pushing it to the left. So your result is going to be a bigger mean for N. That means since for P, we call the mean as Q, and for N, we call the mean as S. S must be greater than Q, or you can write it this way as well. So Q is less than S. So already we can say that B and D must be wrong, because we need that Q is less than S. We need this part. So that's the mean. And then for the median, let's find that very quickly. So to find the median, you have to put them in order, which you already have, and then cross out the left and right most numbers and keep doing it until you get to 1 or 2 middle numbers. So let's do that. For N, if you do this, you would have 18 being crossed, 22 being crossed, 19, 22, 19, 21, 19, 21, and then 19, 19. So to find the median of two numbers, you'd have to add them both up and divide by 2. So 19 plus 19 divided by 2 is still 19, which is the median of this set. After that, let's do the exact same thing for data set P. So I'm going to erase this line, but yeah, cross out left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, and we are still left with a median of 19. So even though we removed one of the numbers, both medians are still the same. That means R and T must be the same. In other words, we have A and C left. So since R and T are the same, it has to be C. This is wrong, so A is wrong as well. So yeah, the answer is C. Let's move on to question number 17. So we have an equation here, and then it says which equation has the same solution as the given equation. Okay, so before we start, I can already tell that we need to get rid of the brackets somehow. Since all of these lack brackets, they either multiplied and expanded, or they multiply by 3 over 2 on both sides to get rid of the 2 over 3. So let's try both, but first, out of experience, I can see a couple of x minus 7s and x minus 14s. That's why I can already tell that we would have to multiply by 3 over 2, kind of like this, to get rid of this 2 over 3. Because most x's over here are by themselves. They don't have 2 over 3x. That's only one of the options. But even then, you can already tell this is wrong, because if you expand the 2 over 3 to the x, it would be 2 over 3x. Then if you expand it to the 7, it would be 2 over 3 times 7, which is equal to 14 over 3. So instead of 7, it should be 14 over 3. So B is already wrong. That's one thing we can already tell. But yeah, so instead of expanding, let's multiply by 3 over 2. In that case, we would have 3 over 2 times 6 on the left side, which is the same as 18 over 2, which is the same as 9. Okay, so we know that 9 is going to be equal to this and this cancel out, kind of like that. So it's equal to x minus 7. Are any of these options over here the same as this? Yes, it has to be C, since that's obviously the answer. But yeah, so with these questions, you kind of really have to just try a few things, because there's no other way of finding the answer without looking at it first. Okay, so that's question 17. Question number 18. The table shows the average time t in minutes it takes Olivier to walk a certain distance d in miles. Which equation could represent this linear relationship? Okay, so first we know that it's linear, and we want to find out the average time. I mean, we already have the average time. We want to find out the equation that they have here of the average time and average distance being covered together. So we know for any linear line, we're going to have the equation y is equal to mx plus b. When you see the word linear, you have to think of this immediately. This is something that is kind of, they're interlinked. So once again, if you think of one of them, you should obviously think of the other right away. But yeah, so if you think of this, if you think of the y-intercept, obviously, if you walk 0 miles, you're going to spend 0 amount of time, because that makes sense logically. So we can assume that, but also let's not assume it for this case because we can find it ourselves. But yeah, so let's first find m, which is the slope. In other words, is going to be rise over run. So let's take any 2 points. I'm going to choose the first 2. In this case, the rise is going to be 12 minus 4, so 12 minus 4. And then the run is going to be 0.48 minus 0.16. So, and if you put that on a calculator, I'm going to do that very quickly, you should get 0.32. So 0.48 minus 0.16. This would be 12 minus 4 is 8. 0.48 minus 0.16 is 0.32. If you put this on calculator, so 8 divided by 0.32, you should get 25. So this is equal to 25. That means, so far, we know that the slope is equal to 25. M must be 25. Okay, let's erase some of the stuff now because you don't need it anymore. We need space to continue our work. But yeah, now I can write that y is equal to 25x plus b. So that's what we have so far. And now if we want to continue, first we have to plug in a point to find what b is. That would be our next step. So how do you find b? Once again, plug in a point. I'm going to choose this point over here, but you don't have to. You can choose any point out of these 3 and it should still work. So let's plug this in. The y value in this case is the 4 and this is the x value. So we can say that 4 is equal to 25 times 0.16 plus b. And if you plug this on a calculator, what's 25 times 0.16? You're going to get 4. So 4 is equal to 4 plus b. Let's subtract 4 from both sides. We're going to get that b is equal to 0. That means this is going to be equal to 0, which we already knew because it also makes sense logically like we said before. If you don't move any distance at all, let's say we add a point here, distance is 0, the average time must also be 0 because you did not move at all. So yeah, that makes sense logically as well. But yeah, let's erase the green stuff now because you don't read it, we don't need it. And yeah, now if we make our final equation, we should say that y is equal to 25x, and then since it's a plus 0, we don't have to write it. So this is our kind of function, but we used y and we used x. Instead of y and x, let's actually replace them. So for y, we would have the average time in minutes, so t is equal to 25. Then instead of x, we would have the distance, which is d. So which of these options over here are the same as the answer that we got? It has to be b. So that's how we found that. Basically find the slope and you're done. Okay, question numbers 19 and 20 refer to the following information, and it says that the number of southern white rhinos was 3,800 in 1984, so it's going to be this dot over here that we measured. This is equal to 3,800. It's in 1984. Okay, after that, it tells us that due to conservation methods, once again, we don't really care about this. This is more of a story. We don't care about that. It says that in 2012, which is over here, the number of rhinos were 20,405. So this over here is 20,405. It's a dot over here. Okay, and then, so yeah, it says a bunch of other stuff, and also shows that the line of best fit of the data is also shown. So it's this line over here. But yeah, the actual question is on the next page. So let's go to that. It says, what is the best approximation? So first off, it says approximation. That means the answer we get is not going to be the best possible answer. Okay, but yeah, so what is the best approximation for the ratio of southern white rhinos in 1984 to the southern white rhinos in 2012? So first off, you have to look at both values. In 1984, it was 3,800. So let's write that on the next page, 3,800. And then for 2012, the value was 20,405. So let's also write that down, 20,405. Okay, now if you notice over here in all these choices, all of them have 1 to something. That means you have to make this a 1. In other words, divide both sides by 3,800. If you do that, you're going to get that this is equal to 1, 2, 5, 281 over 760. This is a mixed number. In other words, it's 5.369. I'm going to erase this fraction. But yeah, this is 5.369, approximately something like that. Okay, and then now the final step of the question is it says approximation. So which of these correlates to the answer we got in the best way? It has to be B, because the other numbers are way off. This is 20, this is 28, and this is too low with 3. So it has to be B, because this is a 5, which is pretty close to 5.369. Okay, But yeah, so that's that. And then question number 20, which value is the closest to the slope of the line of best fit shown? Okay, so kind of, let's look at the values over here. And then which of them is the closest to the slope? So to find the slope, this is going to be an approximation again, because we said it here, is closest. This is important, because if you don't get any of the answers here, you shouldn't, because you're supposed to get an answer that's close, not an exact answer. So what we should do is find the slope of the line of best fit. First of all, it's going up. It's an increasing function, and it's not going down like this. That means if you look back at the options, we can already say that A and B must be wrong because they have negatives. The slope is not a negative, it's a positive. Okay, so right off the bat, we can cross out A and B. After that, let's actually kind of calculate the slope and see what we can get. If you look at rise over run, because that's how you calculate the slope, I'm going to write it here, rise over run. We have to take 2 points and kind of use the rise over run from there. So let's take the first point and the last point. Over here, it started off at, let's say, about 0, I don't know, 2000. That seems like a reasonable value, 0 to 2000. And over here, we can say that it was about 25, and then the height is approximately 19,000. So 19,000, okay? So for the rise, we can calculate that pretty simple, but you would do, this is equal to 19,000 minus 2,000, because those are the two rises that we have. This would, if you do 19,000 minus 2,000, it would give you how much distance we went up by. Kind of look at this, it will give you this distance over here that I'm kind of scribbling on. And then the run is pretty simple, it would be 25 minus 0. So 25 minus 0 over here on the bottom, I'm going to rewrite that. 25 minus 0, and now you just have to divide it on a calculator. So if you put this on calculator, it should be 17,000 over 25. I'm going to do that, 17,000 divided by 25, and that should give you 680. So which of these two values is close to 680? It has to be C. And obviously, if you do this question, you're probably not going to get 680, but you might get some other number that's close. This is because I chose 2,000 and I chose 19,000. You could have had some other numbers, like, I don't know, 1,500 over here, and this could have been 18,000. It really is your choice, but you should get something that's close to 600, so you would know that C is your correct choice. So that's pretty simple. Okay, question number 21. It says, what are all the possible solutions to the given equation? Okay, so the first thing you might do is, okay, let's square root x squared. That will give us x, so x is equal to 5. This is wrong, because if you square something and then take the square root of it, there comes the possibility of a negative answer. So I'll show you what I mean, but this D is a trick question because it's not supposed to be like that. You're supposed to first do it the mathematical way you're supposed to do it. So first, to get rid of the square root sign, you would square both sides, kind of like this. You would end up with x squared is equal to 25. Okay, after that, to get rid of this square over here, you would square root both sides, kind of like this. You would end up with x is equal to plus minus 5. If you're wondering why it's positive and negative, think of it this way. Let's say we had 5 times 5. This is 25. And then negative 5, I'm going to rewrite this actually because my 5s are a bit wonky, but negative 5 times negative 5 is also 25. So if you think of it that way, you wouldn't know if it's either 5 or negative 5. That's why we include both answers. Both of them are valid solutions to this equation, only because we are squaring the x over here. So when you square a positive or negative number, it doesn't really matter because the answer is always going to be positive. So the answer is actually B because we have negative and positive. Okay, that's question 21. Question 22. In the figure shown, points A and B lie on a circle. So A is over here and B is over here. And then it says with radius 1 centered at the origin. So this is a radius of 1, and we can already tell that because this is 0.10. So yeah, it has radius 1 and it's centered at O. After that, if the cosine of AOB, so I'm going to draw AOB, it should be this line over here. If the cosine is negative 1/2, what is the measure in radians of AOB? Okay, so first of all, you can either do it using a calculator, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to use the unit circle. So we know that we have a few angles, and let's ignore the negative for now. But if you think of it as cosine x is equal to 1/2, your answer should be that x is equal to pi over 3. You should know this only because this is a unit circle, kind of something that you'd have memorized. but cosine of pi over 3 is equal to 1/2, and pi over 3 is in radians. Okay. After that, let's bring back the negative, which we ignored. And if you think of it this way, we are moved in the second quadrant. I'm going to split this into 4 quadrants. So kind of this way and this way. This is quadrant 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we are taking the cosine of the angle, but we also know that the cosine of any angle is negative in the second quadrant. So cosine in this quadrant is negative. That means, so cosine of what is equal to negative 1/2? You would do pi minus pi over 3. Because you want to start off, I'm going to zoom in here. I'm going to erase these red lines as well. All this. But if you want to take cosine of this angle, you would start off at pi. So this angle over here, kind of from 0 all the way to 180 degrees, which is pi. And then subtract pi over 3, because usually you would add pi over 3, because we figured out that was 1/2. But if you're doing it backwards, you would have to subtract pi over 3 to get to the angle that we want. And then pi minus pi over 3 is equal to 2 pi over 3. So the answer must be C. And we are done. That's question 22. Okay, question number 23 and 24 refer to the following information. We have ookites, which is a type of cell, which can be modeled as a sphere. Okay, so first of all, when it says cell, we don't really care about this at all. All we know is that whatever thing this is, it's a sphere. That's all we care about in math terms. After that, it says the table shows the surface area over here, and then it also shows the volume over here. And the units for each is micrometers squared and micrometers cubed. Okay, after that, it says that this is based on the average radius for ookites at the same stage of development in 4 types of mammals. Okay, so we have 4 types of mammals here, and this is just the surface area for each of them, and this is just the volume for each of them at a certain type of development. But once again, we don't care about that stage of development because it's not math. We care about the math part of the question, so we can also kind of ignore all this. We don't really care about all that. And then it tells us here that the surface area for a sphere is 4 pi r squared, and the volume is 4 over 3 pi r cubed. Okay. After that, question number 23 is asking for the volume of the moose compared to the volume of a human ookite. Okay, so let me read that again. We want to get the volume of the moose as a percent of the volume of a human. Okay, so moose is over here, humans over here, and we're looking at the volume. So you have to look at this column. So we're going to look at these two values, 1,047 and 24,000, blah, blah, blah. Okay, and then as a percent, if you want to find the percent of moose or mouse, mouse over human, you would put them over each other. So this would be 1,047.4 divided by 24,429. Put this on a calculator, so 1047.4 divided by 24429. This is going to be 0.0428, but it's asking for a percent, so we have to multiply this by 100% like this, and this will give us 4.28. And then, pretty simple, the easy step so far, which of these answers matches 4.28? It has to be 4.29%. So we are done. The answer is A. It's that simple. These questions are mainly to test kind of how nervous you are and how nicely you can plug numbers in a calculator. So also make sure that you're putting in the right numbers in a calculator because you don't want to make a mistake with that. Question number 24. Based on the information in the table, what is the average radius in micrometers of a hamster ookite? Okay, so we're looking at the hamster row, and we want to find the radius of this. And we already remember it's a sphere. This was a main thing about spheres. And here we have the volume and we have the surface area. So no matter how you do this, you should get the same area. Same radius, not same area. But you have two choices. Either take the surface area, which is 4 pi r squared, and find the radius from that, or take the sphere, the volume, so which is 4 over 3 pi r cubed, and find the radius from that. Let's do both just to show you. But for the surface area, I'm going to do it first. Surface area. We can say that 4 pi r squared must be equal to the surface area over here, which is 1720.2. And then let's solve for r. First of all, you would divide by 4 pi on both sides, and then you would have that r squared is equal to 1720.2 divided by 4 pi. So last step, square root both. So you get that r is equal to the square root of 1720.2 over 4 pi. And then let's put this on a calculator. So I'm going to do that very quickly. You would get that this is going to be, 1720.2 over 4 pi and then take the square root of everything, you should get that this is equal to 11.699996, something along that line. Okay, so that's the radius if you do it from the surface area. Let's do the exact same thing, but for the volume. I'm gonna draw a line here because this is for the previous question. Okay, so for the volume, we know that the volume is 4 over 3 pi r cubed, and that should be equal to 6,708.8, because that's the volume of the hamster over here. I'm going to do it in green, but I'm looking at this value over here. Okay, so let's once again solve for r. You would multiply both sides by 3 over 4. You get that pi r cubed is equal to 3 over 4 multiplied by 6,708.8. And then divide both sides by pi, kind of like this. You would end up with r cubed is equal to 3 times 6,708.8 over 4 pi. And then final step, take the cube root of both sides like this. You'd end up with r is equal to the cube root of 3 times 6,708.8 over 4 pi. Put this on calculator. I'm going to do that very quickly. So cube root of fraction, so 3 times 6,708.8 and 4 pi on the bottom, and you would get pretty much the exact same answer. I'm going to write it here. You get that r is equal to 11.69998. So like you can see, we got the same answer no matter what. I'm going to circle them in green. So this is the answer that we got here, and this is the answer that we got here. And both of them are pretty much the exact same thing like you would expect. So the point of this is that no matter if you use the volume or the surface area, you should get the same answer if you do it correctly. And since the answer is 11.69996, that's pretty much 11.7. So the answer is D. Okay, question number 25. We have an equation over here. And then it says that it models the time t in seconds. It takes for a pendulum to complete one cycle where L is the length in meters of the pendulum. Okay, so let's draw it over here on the bottom. So if you have kind of a pendulum like this length over here is going to be L over here, and then the time that it takes to make a whole revolution, kind of like this, is going to be time t. Okay, after that it says, okay, if you solve for t, solving the equation for t would give you this. I'm gonna do it in green because it's kind of important, but yeah, it would give you this equation over here. And then the actual question is, which of the following is the best interpretation of this equation over here? So all we can see that's different between both green equations is the L and the 12. And since we know that L is going to be the length of the pendulum, 12 must also be the length of the pendulum because they subbed in 12. That means whatever pendulum they have has a length of 12, and you're trying to find the time t it would take for it to make a whole revolution or whatever. Okay, so let's look at the 4 options we have. In the first one, it says is going to be the time in seconds it takes the pendulum of this much length meters to complete one cycle. This is wrong because once again we said that the length is 12. They only plugged in 12 instead of L. So L must be 12. So A must be wrong because over here they said that L is equal to this entire thing, which is once again wrong. Okay. Part B, it says the time t it takes a pendulum of length 9.8 meters to complete one cycle. This is once again wrong because 9.8 is at the bottom. It's not the length of 12 that we are looking for. So this is wrong. Part C, it says it takes, so yeah, the time t in seconds, it takes a pendulum of length 12 meters to complete one cycle. So this must be correct because we already know that the length of the pendulum is 12. And then last option, just to make sure, it says the length over here is 12 over 9.8. And that is wrong because once again, the length is only the number on the top, not the entire fraction. So this is wrong once again. The answer is C. Question number 26. We have an equation here, and then it says, how many distinct real solutions does the given equation have? Okay, so we have an equation here. First off, we have this plus 1, so let's expand it. That's always going to be the first step that you always do. Expand and see what you get. Okay, so if you expand the bracket, you can expand it the long way, so multiply x minus 5 times x minus 5. But I already know from a shortcut that this would be x squared minus 10x plus 25. And then put the plus 1 there, this plus 1, let's put it here, so plus 1, and that should be equal to 0. So let's combine a few things, this over here. This will give us that x squared minus 10x plus 26 is equal to 0. And then let's actually start solving for x using the quadratic formula because this is a quadratic equation. Okay, so x is equal to negative b plus minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, so to figure out how many distinct real solutions any of these have, you gotta look at the square root, because that's the only thing that can be invalid. If you have the square root of a negative number, this is invalid. That means none of it will work. You're not gonna have any possible solutions for x. If you have the square root of 0, that means you're gonna have one solution, because no matter if you add it or subtract it, it doesn't really matter, it's a 0, so it does nothing to the equation. And then if you have, let's say, the square root of a positive number, like let's say 5, that means you're going to get one solution when you add it, and then another solution when you subtract it. Okay, so this is what we're looking for, whether the square root is going to be a negative, a positive, or a 0 on the inside of it. Okay, so what is b squared minus 4ac? This is going to be equal to, so yeah, b squared is going to be negative 10 squared, and then minus 4, a is equal to 1, so times 1, and then c is equal to 26, so times 26. If you put this on a calculator, you would get that this is going to be equal to 100 minus 4 times 26, which is 104, which is also equal to negative 4. Okay, so since this is a negative number, that means we would have a square root of a negative number, so this would be the square root of negative 4 over here. I'm gonna draw an arrow, but it will be over here in the red box, and that would tell us that since you cannot take the square root of a negative number, this must be wrong, so that means there are 0 solutions to this equation, because none of them work. You're taking the square root of a positive number. Okay, so A must be the answer. I crossed it, but I'm supposed to circle it. So yeah, A is the correct answer. Okay, question number 27. The sun's mass is 1.98 times 10 to the power of 30 kilograms and 0.04%. So we gotta watch out for the percent here. But yeah, 0.04% of its total mass is sulfur. The total mass of sulfur in the sun is S times 10 to the power of 30 kilograms. What is the value of S? Okay, before we start, let's do something a bit logical here. To find out the mass of sulfur, you would have to multiply 0.04% by this big number here. So first, let's convert 0.04% to a decimal. Divide by 100, so 0.04%. Let me write that down actually. Percent divided by 100 should give you, I'll write it down here, 0.0004. This is 0.04% as a decimal. We get this very tiny decimal. Okay, after that, to get how much sulfur you would have, you would multiply both numbers together. So you'd say that 0.0004 times 1.989 times 10 to the power of 30 would give you S times 10 to the power of 30. So one thing we can do before we begin is cancel these out. If you divide both sides, imagine this is an equation. I'm going to rewrite it down here. 0.0004 times 1.989 times 10 to the power of 30 is equal to S times 10 to the power of 30. So divide both sides by 10 to the power of 30 like this. You would get rid of all of these. And then S is going to be equal to 0.0004 times 1.989, and if you put this on a calculator, you should get 0.0007956, and that is easily your answer, and we just got S. Okay, if you did not cancel out the 10 to the power of 30 and you went straight away into a calculator, you did this, then you would have had to divide it by 10 to the power of 30, so there's no point in doing that because you can easily get the answer this way. Okay. Question number 28, you have a few values here, and it says some values of x and their corresponding values of f of x for the linear function. Okay, let's pause. If you see a linear function, I'm already going to write y is equal to mx plus b. This is something you should kind of tell yourself. If you see the word linear, write this down. Okay, it's going to be very important, and you're probably going to need it at some point. Okay, and then it says blah 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 are shown in the table. Okay, so the actual question is, what is the value of f of 6? Okay, if you want to find out the value of f of 6, you would have to have a 6 here with some value between 4 and 12 would be a 6, but we want to find that. So first, we obviously need this equation to be solved and ready to use. Okay, so what is m? To find m, you have to do rise over run. So the 2 points that I'm going to use, you can use any 2 points, but I'm going to use the first 2 points because why not, right? And then rise would be 4 minus negative 5, So 4 minus negative 5. And then for the 1, it would be 4 minus negative 2. So 4 minus negative 2. And this would be 4 plus 5 over 4 plus 2, which is the exact same as 9 over 6, which is also the exact same as 3 over 2, if you simplify the fraction. Okay, so far we know that m, I'm going to write it here, m is equal to 3 over 2. Let's find b now. So if we know that y is equal to 3 over 2x plus b, I'm going to use the first point. Let's say I'm going to use negative 2 comma negative 5 to find out what b is. So this would be negative 5 is equal to 3 over 2 times negative 2 plus b. After that, you just solve for b. You end up with negative 5 is equal to negative 3 plus b. So b must be equal to negative 2. So now I have the actual equation. I'm going to write it here. Y is equal to 3 over 2x minus 2. This is our actual equation. And now we can use it to find f of 6. So if you want to find f of 6, plug 6 into x. You would get that y is equal to 3 over 2 times 6 minus 2, which is equal to 9. So we got 3 times 6 is 18, divided by 2 is 9. 9 minus 2, which is 7. Okay, so f of 6 is equal to 7, and we found that using the equation. Once again, once you see the word linear, write the equation down, because you're probably going to need it. Okay, that's question number 28. Let's go on to question number 29. For the linear equation, okay, this time they said linear equation, and they also gave it to us, so we don't have to write it down. But yeah, so for the linear equation, where m and b are positive constants, okay, we don't really care about that too much, we just know that they're unknown. Which of the following tables gives us 3 values of x and their corresponding values of y? Okay, let's look at all these tables here. What's common is that we have numbers. We have negative 2, 1, 0, negative 2, 1, 0, negative 2, 1, 0, negative 2, 1, 0. But then all the other values that I did not circle are changing. They're either right or they're either wrong, and we have to find out if they're right or wrong to then circle them and see which is the right answer. Okay, but yeah, so now let's kind of plug these points in one by one and solve for y to see what we would get. Okay, so if y is equal to mx plus b, but then I say that I want x to be negative 2. So let's plug that in. If for x is equal to negative 2, you would get that y is equal to m times negative 2 plus b, which is negative 2m plus b. So I know now that if you plug in negative 2 into x, y should be negative 2m plus b. For the first one, we only have negative 2m. We're missing the plus b. That means a is wrong. Okay, and let's look at all the other options. This is correct because it has a plus b, and this is correct because it has a plus b, but this is wrong because it's also lacking the plus b, so I'm going to cross this and say that it's wrong. Okay, so already by doing one step, we have 2 options left, and if you get super stuck, you can literally guess. So we're not going to do that obviously, but you can guess if you get super stuck. Okay, next up, let's do the exact same thing for x is equal to 1. So if x is equal to 1, this would be y is equal to m times 1 plus b, which is equal to m plus b. Are both of these options correct? Yes, both of them have m plus b, so we can't really say that one of them is wrong yet. But yeah, now let's do the exact same thing, but this time we're going to solve for x because we have y. Okay, so if y is equal to 0, we would have that 0 is equal to m times x plus b. If you want to solve for x, we're going to subtract b from both sides. You're going to get that negative b is equal to mx. Then divide both sides by m. You're going to get that x is equal to negative b over m. Okay, let's look at both options. If x is negative b over m, we have that for option b, but for option c, this is wrong because it only says b. So therefore, the answer must be b. Okay, question number 30. A fitness membership costs $45 per month. Then all new members receive a discount of $20 off the cost of their first month of membership. So the first month is going to be $20 off. That means 45 minus 20 is equal to 25. That means they're going to spend $25 on their first month of the membership. And then which function, C, get the total cost? So yeah, C is just cost. And then, so yeah, which function is correct that a new member pays after T months of the membership? So for the first month, like we said, we're going to pay 25. So the cost function T, or C of T, would be 25 plus something. We don't know what that something is yet. We're going to find it later. But already, like we said, let's try to cross out a few options. I can cross out A and C because they have 20 plus something. We want 25 plus something because we are going to pay 25. Options A and C, the reason I crossed them out was that they assumed we're gonna be paying 20, even though we are getting a 20% discount. We're not paying 20, it's 20% off. That means we are left with 25. That means so far my two options left are either B or D. So I'm gonna try kind of see which one is correct. But yeah, so now let's think of it logically. The only difference between B and D are that we either have plus 45t or plus 45t minus 1. If you think of it as we already paid the first month and we want to skip it in our calculation, that means, for example, if I paid the first month, I'm only going to start my payment of $45 on the second month. So that's why it has to be t minus 1 because we already skipped the first month. The first month was an exception. It was only $25. After the first month, after we skip it, that's why we subtract 1. After we skip it, we're going to be starting to pay $45 a month. That's why the answer is D. For part B, it assumes that we have not paid $25 and that we're still going to pay another $45 for the first month, which is wrong because we already paid the first month and that was $25. So B is wrong and the answer is D. Okay, pretty simple. Let's move on to question number 31. But yeah, so from now on, all the questions are going to be actual manual find a solution, and they're not going to be stuff that you can guess or multiple choice answers like we've been doing. Okay, so question number 31, we have a list of 10 data values, which is shown below. So yeah, just 10 values, and we want to find the mean of the data. So obviously for the mean, you should know this. We're going to add all values, and then we're going to divide by the number of values. In this case, we have 10 data values, so we're going to divide by 10. So in other words, if you add all these up, let's put this in a calculator, we're going to do 4 plus 6 plus 7 plus 2 plus 8 plus 9 plus 6 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3, and that gives us 51, and we're going to divide that by 10, so the answer is 5.1. Super easy, super simple, just find the mean, something you could literally know how to do in grade 3. Okay, question number 32, a dot plot represents a data set. Okay, so here we have a bunch of numbers, I guess, and then it says what is the median of the 19 values in the data set. So this is very, very easy as well, just find the median. So how do you find the median in general? First of all, we have to make sure that the numbers are ordered from least to greatest. Okay, after you order them from least to greatest, it's pretty simple. You just start crossing out a number from the left and the right, left, right, until you end up with something in the middle that you can say is the median. Okay, so let's do exactly that directly on the plot itself instead of wasting time and writing all the numbers down. Okay, so let's cross out the least number. It would be 36. Greatest number would be 48. Least number would be 36 again, 48 again, and then 38, 46, 38, 46, 38, 46, and then 40, 44, 40, 44, 42, 44, and then 42, 44. So which number is in the middle, or which number do we have left? It has to be 42. So the median must be equal to 42. If what I did was confusing, like I said, you can write every number down. So you can, for example, start off with 36, 36, 38, 38, 38, and so on until you write down all of these numbers, and then you can start crossing them off left and right like we also did. But yeah, what I did was basically that, but without actually writing the numbers down. But if that helps you, you can do it. It doesn't really matter as long as you get the right answer. Okay. Question number 33, a bag contains only red, blue, and yellow marbles. If a marble is selected at random from this bag, so first of all, we don't know how many marbles there are of each color. All we know is that there are red, blue, and yellow marbles, and we selected a marble randomly from this bag, and that tells us that the probability of getting a yellow marble is 2 times the probability of getting a blue marble. So yellow is equal to 2 of blue. Okay, and then the probability of selecting a yellow marble is 6 times the probability of selecting a red marble. So yellow is equal to 6R because it's 6 times the value of R. Okay, and then what is the probability of selecting a blue marble? Okay, so first of all, let's kind of visualize this with pictures. It's always nice to draw pictures and circles because that always helps. Okay, if y is equal to 2b, if the chance of picking a yellow marble is twice the chance of picking a blue marble, that means there are twice as many yellow marbles as blue. So for example, for every 2 yellow marbles, you would have one blue marble. That makes sense because once again, this is twice the chance of a blue marble. Okay, let's do the exact same thing for yellow and red. So for every 6 yellow marbles, we have 1 red marble. Once again, this makes sense also because the value of y is 6 times the value of r. Okay, now what can we do? We want to represent all of them together. We want to represent a new picture that includes yellow, blue, and red. How would we do that? Let's take the bigger number. In this case, it's a 6, because we can still represent the red as one whole marble. If you took the smaller number, let's say I started to say, okay, I'm going to have 2 yellow marbles, and I'm going to have 1 blue marble, and then how many red would I have for 2 yellow marbles? It would be 1 over 3, but that doesn't make sense. You cannot have a third of a marble. So we have to take the bigger number to make a new picture. So let's draw 6 for yellow, like this, and we obviously know that for 6 yellow, we would have 1 red, and then since we always have double the amount of yellows than blues, 6 divided by 2 is 3. So we have 3 blue marbles. And this is basically the ratio of each one. For every 6 yellow marbles, we have 3 blue marbles and we have 1 red marble. This is, once again, the ratio that we found. And then it says, what is the probability of selecting a blue marble? Now it's pretty easy, because looking at the ratio, we know that there are 3 blue marbles, so 3 blue, and then there's a total of 10 marbles in the ratio. So 10 total, that means this is 3 over 10 or 0.3. That is our answer, and we are done. But once again, all we did here was that we found the ratio, and then we just did what we would usually do to find what the probability is from the ratio, and we are done. Okay, question number 34. Here we have a circle, and it says line K, which is this line over here, is tangent to the circle with center O at point P as shown. What is the slope of line K? Okay, so if there's a line that is tangent to the circle, that means if you connect the radius to that point of tangency, I'm going to kind of draw this. This is something you should know or memorize, but this is always going to be a right angle. They're going to be perpendicular. And we know that if you have a slope of a line, and you're trying to find what the slope of the perpendicular line is, you just find the negative reciprocal of that slope. Okay, so let's do it together. But what is the slope of this line over here, of OP? So OP, to find the slope, m is going to be equal to rise over 1. Once again, pretty simple. So what is rise over 1? We went down by 4. So we went from 0 to negative 4. So rise is negative 4. And then the run, we went to the right by 3. We started at 0, we ended off at 3. So negative 4 over 3 is the slope of OP. Okay? After that, like we said, they are perpendicular. So to find the slope of K, you just have to find the negative reciprocal. So the negative reciprocal just means that you have to change the sign. So if it's positive, make it negative. And if it's negative, make it positive. So we would have a positive slope. And then the reciprocal just means fill the fraction. So right now we have 4 over 3. It would be 3 over 4. And that is it. So the slope of line K is 3 over 4. Very simple. Once again, the negative reciprocal, I'm going to write it here. Negative reciprocal. This only works if the lines are perpendicular. If they are anything else other than perpendicular, this breaks and you just did something that is wrong. Okay, so watch out because they only have to be perpendicular. And in this case, the word tangent told us that they are perpendicular. Okay. Question number 35. Here we have two functions, f of x and g of x. And then it says for the given information, f and g, r is a constant. If f of x times g of x is equal to this, what is the value of r? Okay, so let's actually multiply f of x and g of x because they told us what the value of it is. Okay, so f of x times g of x is going to be equal to x plus 3 multiplied by 4x squared minus rx plus 36. This is something that was given to us in the question, so we are trying to evaluate it and see if whatever we find matches with what we got in the question. Okay, so let's do that. You get that first x times 4x squared is 4x cubed, and then x times negative rx is negative rx squared, and then x times 36 is 36x, and then 3 times 4x squared is going to be 12x squared. 3 times negative rx is going to be negative 3rx, and then 3 times 36 is going to be 108. Kind of like this. I'm going to move what we wrote here just to make it look nicer, basically. Kind of like this. Okay, after that, it's pretty simple. All we have to do now is find out a way to make what we found here equal to what we got in the question, like we said before. Okay, so I see a 4x cubed on both equations. I see this on both. That means we can ignore it. I'm going to start kind of erasing it like this. Okay, we also see 108. So kind of like this. We can cross it out. But do we see anything else in what we got? No. That means all of these should somehow cancel out to be zeros. Okay, for example, if you combine the x terms, or I mean the x squared terms first, so negative rx squared is what we have here, and we also have a 12x squared here, plus 12x squared. This should give you 0, because we need to get rid of it somehow, since it's not in this equation that we got in the question. Okay, same with 36x and negative 3rx. So 36x minus 3rx should also be equal to 0, because we somehow need to get rid of it because it's not there in the question. Okay, how do you do that? Let's solve both equations. And by the way, like if you choose to solve this, you're still going to get the same answer as this, because the question is meant to be that way. So you're not going to get a different answer, and usually you can just do one of them to get the answer, but I'm going to do both to show you that they both work. Okay, so let's solve for r here. First, we can add rx squared to both sides, so plus rx squared like this. You would end up with 12x squared is equal to rx squared. Then divide both sides by x squared. You would end up with r is equal to 12. And that's it. So we just found what r is. Or if you decide to go with this set of equation here, let's do the exact same thing. So let's add 3rx to both sides of the equation like this. You would end up with 36x is equal to 3rx, and then divide both sides by 3x to end up with r, kind of like this. You would end up with r is equal to 12 once again. So whatever you do, you're going to get the same answer, and we just found it. R is 12, so we are done. Okay, let's move on to question number 36. Line M is shown in the xy plane, and the point with coordinates 0.25, r is on line M. What is the value of r? Okay, this is pretty simple. First of all, we have a line M. Okay, so once again, if you see the word line or linear, write down y is equal to mx plus b. Okay, after that, let's find what the equation is so that we can then plug in 0.25 into x and get a value of y, which is going to be r. Okay, so let's do exactly that. First, let's find m. M is equal to rise over 1, like it always is, rise over 1. The rise here, we went down by 2, because we started off at 2, and we ended off at 0, so the rise is negative 2. And for the run, we started off at 0, and we ended off at 1.5. So in other words, the run is 1.5. If you put this in a calculator, so negative 2 divided by 1.5, this will give you negative 4 over 3. So m is negative 4 over 3, and we just found it. So let's continue to find b now. I'm going to do this in green. So we want to find b. In this case, b is equal to, we don't know it obviously yet, but if you look at the graph, this is going to be super easy because we have the y-intercept. If you look at the graph here at this point, we know that it touches the y-axis at 2. So b must be equal to 2. Okay, now we have our actual equation. We have that y is equal to negative 4 over 3x plus 2. Okay, after finding this, now we can plug in 0.25 into x. We would get that, so for if x is equal to 0.25, we would get that y is equal to negative 4 over 3 times 0.25 plus 2. And I just have to put this in a calculator. So negative 4 divided by 3 times 0.25 plus 2. This would give you 5 over 3, and that is your answer for r. So 0.25 comma 5.3, 5 over 3 is on the line. That means r is equal to 5 over 3, and we are done. Okay, that's question 36. Question 37, here we have a garden, I guess because it says it here. And then it says, the rectangular garden shown has a width of 50 feet. So I guess this over here is 50 feet. Okay, and the length of 45 feet. So this length is 45 feet, and obviously the figure is not drawn to scale, so we don't try to measure it. Okay, so this is 45 feet. Okay, after that it says if the combined area of the garden and the paved path has a width of x, kind of like this. But yeah, if the combined area of everything that you see here is 2646, what is the value of x? Okay, so obviously to find the area of the entire thing, let's look at it. I'm going to draw it in green, but think of it as, once again, the area of the entire thing. So to find the area, which we know is 2646, we need to multiply the length times the width. In this case, the length, like we said, was 45, but that's only for the garden. How would you figure out what these two spots are? You would add x twice. So the length is 45 plus 2x. Once again, because we know that this spot over here and this spot over here is x. We have it given, and basically everywhere, this is x everywhere. That means this is going to be the length. For the width, it's the exact same thing. You have 50 over here, so it's going to be 50 plus, and then you have an x over here, kind of in this length over here, and you also have an x in this part over here, which is the same because it's a rectangle. So plus 2x again, and now all you have to do is solve for x. We have an equation. We have that 2646 is equal to this stuff. Solve for x. How do you do that? You start expanding. So first you multiply. So you're going to get that 2646 is going to be equal to 45 times 50 is 2250. You can use a calculator, but I already know this. And then 45 times 2x is going to be equal to 90x. Okay, and then 2x times 50 is going to be equal to 100x. And then 2x times 2x is going to be equal to 4x squared. Okay, after that, once again, we're trying to solve for x. So let's combine a bunch of stuff. First, let's combine these two. We get that 2646 is equal to 2250 plus 190x, because we have 90 and we have 100, so 190 plus 4x squared. And then in the quadratic formula, to use the quadratic formula, it must be equal to 0. So how do you get rid of the 2646? You subtract it from both sides. So subtract 2646 like this, 2646. You would end up with 0 is equal to 4x squared. I'm going to write this first, and then I'm going to write down the plus 190x. And then plug this in the calculator, but 2250 minus 2646 is equal to negative 396. Okay, I got that from these two numbers. Now we have to solve for x like we said. So what is the quadratic formula? You have to memorize this, because this is something you should know. But x is equal to negative b plus minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, after that, now we just have to plug in a calculator. But let's actually write it down. So in this case, negative b is going to be negative 190. So negative 190 plus minus the square root of 190 squared minus 4 times, in this case, a is 4, and then c is negative 396. Okay, like that, all over 2 times a, which is 2 times 4, which is just 8. Okay, put this in the calculator like we said. So it's going to take a bit of time. We got negative 190. First of all, we're going to do the positive answer. So plus the square root of 190 squared minus 4 times negative 396 all over 8. So we first get an answer of 2. Okay, after that, our second answer, because now we have to find what the negative answer is, that would give us, let's change that sign on the calculator. So instead of positive, I'm going to put down a minus, and it gave me 49.5, or negative 49.5. And now we have to look at both answers. Okay, so for the value of x, it's a distance. Do you think it makes sense to get a negative answer? Definitely not. You cannot have negative distance because we're not going in some other dimension in the real world. Okay, so this has to be an invalid answer. That means the only possible answer is 2. So x must be 2, and that is your final answer. Okay, and then the last question of this SAT, it says that the population of a city in 2000 was 2.6 times its population in 1999. So I guess in 1999, whatever the population was, let's call it X, but then in 2000, it grew to 2.6x because it got 2.6 times bigger. Okay, and then if the population of the city increased by p% from 1999 to 2000, what is the value of p? Okay, so we went from x to 2.6x. How much did we add? We added 1.6x. That means we added 1.6 in terms of kind of the population that we already had. Whatever the factor is, that's what we added. What is that percent? 1.6 as a percent is equal to 160%. Okay, but then if you look at the actual question, it tells you what is p. So p is only 160. If you include the percent sign, you are wrong. Because if you include the percent sign, let's put it into here. If p is equal to 160%, that means the answer is going to be 160%, because we already have a percent here, so that's wrong. P is only the number value of it, so you have to erase the percent sign, and this is your correct answer. This is wrong, this is correct. But once again, we only took how much we increased by, since it said how much did we increase by. That's it. You just have to read the question and do what it says. Okay, and we did not include the percent sign once again, because it's already included in our answer, and P is only the value attached to the percent sign, and that's it. Okay, so that's it for this video. It was pretty long, but it would be nice if you subscribed if it helped you, and maybe drop a like because it helps me. But yeah, so that's it. I'm going to attach the video of the calculator, or non-calculator version of this SAT in the description. And yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this, and enjoy your day.